when I look back at that period, understanding what I wanted before I was 40 and after 40 was different, because as men, we take longer to bake. It takes us long. Even
I believe that.
Even Richard Reeves talks about on average
longer
it's
for
about
men to mature.
I feel like I came out like this. My mom's like, you were born. You like popped out of the womb like
You're
this.
a born adult.
But let's go back to the stats. Number one, Richard Reeves talks about this. Men are about 2 years behind women on average when it comes to their development, number one. And number two, if you look on some of the dating apps, specifically eHarmony, some of those numbers, women are in their peak as far as getting right swipes or getting chosen between the ages of 23 and 25. And men, it's after the age of 38. Why is that? Is it because we have bigger muscles? No, it's because women inherently have this understanding. This guy made it to 38. There's something, he's doing something right. He's acquired more wealth. He has more experience. Men must become, and women are. And so that's one of the reasons when we get later onto the Layla, what's her name? Layla,
Lila Rose.
Lila Rose. Well, that whole thing when she's sitting there questioning Justin Waller is like, why don't you have the discipline to settle down? I'm like, how come you didn't have the discipline to get married when you were 23? You waited till you were 34. When you were at your peak, you weren't interested in monogamy, but now Justin Waller's supposed to be interested in monogamy when he busted his ass to get rich.
Can we talk about that idea of male discipline? Because one critique that I have of some guys in the space is that they do preach discipline. And I'm on board, by the way, with everything about the gym and getting your finances in order and being stable and focusing on, your own well-being.
Yeah,
and
all
being
of the things that would benefit a woman later on in life so that they could start a family and complete that life mission.
I'm on board with all that. What I don't like is when guys who are very disciplined in all areas of their life come out and preach discipline, rightfully so, but then will say, well, let's not apply it to our sex lives because that's just not for me.
Right.
And it's like, well, you know what? It may not be for you, but when you make it sound like it's outside of your control, that's where you lose me. You may say, well, I want to have, one wife and 50 girlfriends, but if I really wanted to change that, I would. But what it sounds like is all of a sudden some of these guys become helpless and they're like puppets to their eggplant, for lack of a better word. They're like, I can be disciplined in every area of life, but what the eggplant tells me to do, I got to do. And that to me demeans your value, because I think of myself as a young girl, and I think people would have, if I, walked out here at 24 with the way I was living my life, most people would have said, this is a high value woman at the time. I would have been like, no way. Like, I need your discipline to carry through. That's important to me. So that seems like a flaw in the speaking of.
I think when we're defining self-control, you have to think of the context of that self-control. So if the guy has the discipline and the commitment to be in the military, we always say, oh, guys are commitment phobic. When we say committophobe, whatever the hell that means, it's usually won't commit to a woman. Okay, if you look at how much men have to commit to education, to the military, to family, to a career, to their starting their own business, men are certainly not committophobes in any of those senses. But when we talk about commitment, when we talk about self-control, we're putting it into a context that benefits women. That's the problem.
Right, but I'm not even saying, like, I can understand a guy who, I'm not saying commit to every woman. Like, there may be a woman that you're like, I'm just not that into you. Like, this is not worth it to me. That's different. But if you make a standard of like, oh, I just can't commit to a woman. I can't do it. It's not in my DNA. Well, why? Right, if you're so disciplined, why?
So let's talk about this. From an evolutionary standpoint, not right or wrong, no morals, no Christianity involved. It makes sense because men are more interested in casual sex than women are. And we have 17, for those of you who don't know this, we have 17 times as much testosterone in our system as women do. And that is the number one regulator of sexual libido. That's the reason why men can have casual sex more often than women. I don't care what anybody says about discipline or men are evil. Yeah. It is a function of endocrinology.
I agree with you on that.
Okay. So now understanding that, women, when you think about the horniest you've ever been in your life, okay, now multiply that times 17. That's Tuesday for us. That's a normal thing. So I'm not
Tuesday. I love it.
I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm just trying to explain that's where it comes from. So now what happens is his definition of discipline is now different from your definition of discipline. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but in the case with Justin Waller, he's like, my discipline includes me doing all these other things. Here's the other thing.
But that's because he wants his discipline.
But not only that, but
he's not here to defend himself.
Right,
so
but again, think about this from Justin Waller's standpoint. When you say high, it doesn't make him a high status man. Does it help him with his business? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In the War Room and in Hustle University, him being able to be with multiple women actually does help him.
Let me be clear, because I like Justin. I'm not picking on Justin, and I want Justin to be able to...
I'm staying at his house. Shout out to Justin Waller.
I'm not picking on you, Justin, because we've had great discussions, and I would definitely want him to be here to defend himself. But this is not even just about Justin. I've heard a lot of guys kind of talk about discipline, and for some reason, and I understand, they say, oh, the spread the seed mentality, what you're talking about, biologically, you're more driven. I understand the biological difference between men and women, and I'm not here to argue that men are... definitely more horny than women.
Yeah.
Anyone arguing that is just, I don't know, lost in space. But regardless, it's what you choose to act on, in my view. So what's very admirable to me always, and I said this to you in our first conversation, is a guy who does have those options, who women do want, but you make the choice and you say, I'm going to be disciplined in my life. And this woman who's, a 304 and is talking about how she screwed, half the NBA team last week doesn't deserve my time or my energy. So thanks, but no thanks, honey. I appreciate the love and I'm glad. And now maybe another really nice girl over here sees that I'm wanted and desired and I'm going to give my time to her. That to me is an indicator of value. That's something that I throughout my life would have looked at in a man and been like, that's really nice because he has the options.
Yeah.
But he's not jumping into bed with some 304 because he feels that he deserves. He's just more worthy than that of goodness.
So I've chosen to settle down with my girlfriend, but it wasn't because of discipline. But before I met her, I was not intending on being in a relationship. And I think this is where a big differentiation comes. A lot of times women are like, I'm now, when he talks about the end of the epiphany phase, I have now switched gears. And now I am looking for a monogamous relationship.
Stick the landing.
For me, Kylie landed on me to the point where there was no way I wasn't going to be in a relationship with her when I met her. I was like, no interest in being in a relationship. Oh, but I am with you. All of a sudden, the parameters. Great. But that's not discipline, Jedediah. That was a function of a boulder hitting me in the head and being like, "This is the one I choose."
Right. And that happens for some people.
Right. But the point is, like, I think for women, again, you don't have men growing up be like, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter. They don't go, I want to be married. No, what dudes do not say that. Women do. I can't wait for my Cinderella moment. When I walk down the aisle. Women dream about their marriage day.
I don't know about anymore, though. I don't know about. Is that getting lost?
I think more women.
You think the girls on the Whatever podcast are looking for their Cinderella moment?
Less women in general, still more women than men.
Still more women than men.
So when it comes to what is my next relationship status going to be, women plan that out. Men are just doing. They're just living their life. And in my situation, the priority for me was to turn my company MOA into an 8-figure company. That was number one. And when Kylie said I'm on board with that, then she became my girlfriend. That's how it worked. So in that type of situation, she understood I had the discipline to do this. And with everything else, it's not like if I wasn't with her, I'd have another girlfriend. She's the only woman I would have chosen to be my girlfriend.
I got you.
And so because of that, it's not a function of discipline.
Not for you.
Not for me.
But
I think for a lot of men, and I'm not going to call myself a high status man, but like for a lot of men who are high status, I think for them, it's the same kind of thing. They go through life and then one of them just hits you on the head so hard that you can't go without her. That's essentially what would go on in this situation. So I think it is Lila or Layla. How you say her
We're
name?
going to get to Lila in one second.
But Lila's definition of discipline is hers. It is not Justin's. Justin is allowed to have his own.
Yeah,
and the thing
for
is,
sure.
But the thing is, he'll do that and he'll still make a lot of money and he'll still have a ton of women who are attracted to him.
I was going to say, he'll still be at the top of his game.
Yeah, he'll still be at the top of the game. So for us,
that's not what she was saying, though. We'll get to her in a second.
Well, no,
I want to play the clip.
Because the way that she's defining discipline.
Can I get to her in 1 second? Because I want you to
comment.
Well,
let me throw one last thing out here. Okay, so like I have been married for 27 years. I've never cheated on my wife. I love her. I have respect for her. We have a kid.
She watching? Hello.
Yes, I have. But
he's not lying, by the way.
Yeah,
he's not
and
lying.
by the way, I have there again. It's opportunity and reason, as far as infidelity is concerned. But like, it's closed on my end and closed on her end.
Correct.
Okay, for someone who wants to have a main and his side pieces, it's open on his end and closed on all of his girlfriend's end. Also, by the way, the most common version of this is open on women's end and closed on the guy's end. So if we're going to start talking about self-control,
that is the majority.
Let's start looking at
I
all the girls on Instagram who are still advertising themselves after they're already in a relationship where it is closed on his end because he's not allowed to go cheat or go out and sell himself to other women. But at the same time, she's advertising herself to other men.
Very
so
fair
if you
point.
want to talk about self-control, if we're going to wag fingers, let's wag it in the right direction.
If you like the short clip and want to watch the full episode, click here. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one on Connect, you're going to click right here. Let's get to talking.